Something really bad happens to your progress when you use ChatGPT too early. And no, I'm not actually just talking about random bugs or just bad code. I'm talking about the fact that you feel productive, but you're still unable to finish a single real game. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm absolutely not anti-AI. I actually preach for using AI. When you are more intermediate, I use AI a lot now. But the problem I have is that you're a beginner and you're using AI for all your code without even knowing what an if statement is. That's the problem. And it's a problem for a few reasons. The biggest one, and probably the most obvious one, is just that you have less experience and less knowledge about code, so you're going to prompt the AI in a less effective way. Let me give you an example. So you might have this prompt where you don't think the movement feels good. You're playtesting the game, the AI didn't make a good player movement script, so you need to refine it. You don't have any knowledge about code, you don't have any knowledge about game development, how games are made, like game design. And in that case, what other things then make the movement feel good can you prompt the AI? You don't even know what like a head bob is. You don't know what like the run acceleration is. You don't have any prior knowledge about how movement systems work. So the only thing you can realistically write is the movement feels bad, make it feel better. Another example is that you have no experience on project management, and it's also really hard to know how to make changeable and expandable code if you've never had coding experience without AI. So another thing could be that you just ask it to make one single system at a time without having any knowledge of what your project is going to look like in the future. Let me give an example with the player moment. So with the player moment, you might just write, make an FPS player controller. That's going to be so vague, and it's not going to be specific to the things that you need to add later. So in your player controller, that's like a very big and central thing. Like in my game now, I have like probably 8 different player controller scripts that each do one thing, and I even have a player facade and like a player controller which manages all the different scripts. It's like a very complex, but I made it in a way that's very changeable and expandable because it's like in multiple scripts and the architecture is very intentional. But if you don't have that knowledge, you just ask it to make this FPS controller, and then you ask it to make like stamina, then you ask it to add UI. What it's going to do is that it's not going to create new scripts. It's going to put everything into this one player controller. And that's just one example of how you need some like knowledge of project management, of expandable, changeable code to actually make like efficient and expandable code, right? In my experience, that's not something the AI is going to do for you. And why is that? Well, it's because you're just telling it to add it. You're not telling it to make this new script. You're not telling it to specifically make it with like the knowledge that you're going to add like jumping in the future, or you're going to add stamina, or you're going to add like dashing, right? If it knew all these things, it would just make it into like separate smaller scripts from the very beginning. But because the AI doesn't have any knowledge about the future of your projects, it's only in your like vague imagination, and you also don't know that you shouldn't have like mega scripts. It's just like a horrible mess, right? So you can see the problem, right? I'm not saying that the AI can't do these things. What I'm saying is that the AI is just going to follow your instructions. So if you tell it to make the movement feel better, that's when it starts to come up with new things. That's when it's going to find new problems. It's going to reason, which problems are there in this script that I need to fix? And when it comes to game design specifically, because this is like game development, it's very dynamic. It's very like fluid. There's no like right and wrong answer, right? It's going to start like to reason and to find new things. It's not going to make the movement feel better. It's just going to like change things and like logically think, what makes this feel better? Instead of like how games actually is. It's based on feel, but the AI can't feel. So you need to have some game development experience to be able to identify what is wrong with this player movement script so that you can specify your prompt to the AI. So I'm using AI a lot in my own development now, and I'm using it very efficiently because I have some prior experience with code. I have a lot of prior experience with C++. I made like complex systems with C++, and that's how I learned my most foundational programming knowledge. So I know like all these things, what like an if statement is, like what a while statement is. I have a lot of knowledge about coding logic, how you make expandable, changeable code in like big projects, and that makes me able to prompt the AI efficiently. This is like very subtle. Even it's not like something that I would just be able to like give you tons of examples because it's so subtle. It's just like the way you speak to AI. You just know the AI, you just know the tasks much better when you have some like prior experience with code and you know actually how to code. You're not just like a random person prompting the AI. And I also have a lot of experience with problem solving. So I started to code before ChatGPT, right? So I have a lot of experience with how you solve problems on your own, not just asking like ChatGPT sending your code, right? And that's a skill you also need to develop. Let's say there's like something wrong in your game engine. You need to like, it's very unconscious, obviously, it's very conscious. I can't like explain to you why I'm better at problem solving. It's just like experience, right? But my example, if you have like a problem inside the editor, you might have like some experience with like a problem similar to this previously, and you kind of remember how you figured it out. So you went into the preferences and then you changed this like UI thing, and there's going to be all these things that you just have to unconsciously know. You have to have experience. Now let's talk a bit more about learning, because I mentioned this, that you need to learn the basics of code before you use AI. Now you might be very curious and very overwhelmed, like, how do I learn to code? So let's just clarify that real quick. So when you're using AI code, just the basics first. When you're using AI code, you're not getting any feedback and you also don't struggle. So that's what I usually say. Obviously, learning is more than these two things, but we can actually comprise, in my opinion, you can comprise learning into these two things. Do you struggle and do you get feedback? So obviously there's more things. You need like some prior knowledge, like watch a introduction video to the game engine, like to learn like the basics of code. There's some like nuances to this, but what I usually do is just compress it into feedback and struggle. So if you struggle with something and then you can see the result, either it's bad or good. Bad might even be better. When you see the result and you struggle with something, that's how you learn. So you can imagine, if you make an experiment in your game engine that you struggle with, you spend 15 minutes just trying to experiment with your code, just running the game, you get like these compiler errors all the time. But after like a few minutes, 15 minutes of struggling, you made like the thing that you tried to do. You struggled, you had to guess so many different things, you had to test so many times. But after all of that pain, after all of these compiler errors, things not working as you intended, in the end, you see the result that you expected, right? And that's how you actually learn. You're going to learn from this feedback, and you're going to remember the thing because you struggle with it. So when you're using AI to code, you're not going to remember the code that you got from AI because you didn't struggle with the thing. And your brain is going to remember like that you didn't struggle with this. It's going to know that. So your brain is going to think, this was very easy for me. The AI code in this example. This was very easy for me. There's no reason for me to remember this because this information is going to be readily available all the time. I'm going to use my precious remembering storage to something else. Opposed to the example where you struggle and fail and then you win for 15 minutes, your brain is going to think, oh, holy fuck, this was super hard. I don't want this struggle and use so much energy on this problem like in the future. So I better remember this because this was like super hard. And that's how your brain thinks. Very simplified, obviously, but that's how your brain thinks and that's how you remember information. So to learn, just remember these two things, struggle and feedback. So what I usually preach is that you spend around 10 to 15 minutes after you watch an introduction video for a game engine. I assume that you already have like some prior knowledge, but basically just learn what like a function is, if statement, a while loop, all these things. That's the prior knowledge that I expect. And then you can just start with what I explained, where you just struggle for 10 to 15 minutes. You like fail 90% of the time. And then in the end, you get the results that you want. After you fail for like 50 times, you get like 50 compiler errors, right? Because even though you're not making that much visible progress, you're spending like 15 minutes on a very small thing, like 15 minutes on making like a cube move to the right. It's not much visible progress, but that's how you actually learn when you're a beginner. You start very small and you actually struggle and really struggle with the thing that you're trying to do and just move very slowly. If you set like a small goal to make like this square move to the right and you can't find a solution within 10 to 15 minutes, that's also totally fine. What I usually say in that case is that you go on Google and you go on forums, like Stack Overflow, Reddit, all these things, Unity discussions, and you just try to find the solution there instead of using AI. Because this is still going to have like a little bit of struggle, which we talked about, which is essential to learn. Using forums is going to have a little bit of struggle. If you use ChatGPT, it's going to send you like a mega giga code of like an advanced FPS Fortnite controller, right? And that's not struggle. That's like the easiest thing you can do. So if you're going to search, at least do the hardest and most struggle thing you can do, which is going to be to not use AI. It's going to be to use forms. The key things to remember when you're learning in open is basically this word I talked about, struggle, feedback, and then also restrictory information. That's how you actually struggle. It's by restricting information, right? And feedback, that comes naturally when you just make code and try. When you've nailed down code, you can't just think that, okay, I know how to code now, I can make like all these big, good games, I can make like millions of Steam. Because code in 2026 is a very small part of game development, right? Realistically, because code is very easy. You can spend like 2 weeks learning how to code, and then you can use AI like kind of effectively and make like kind of cool things, right? I have a video on my channel. It's called I made Minecraft in 3 hours. I mainly used AI in that, and it just like highlights how much like cool things you can do very quickly with AI when you actually know what you're doing. But you need to realize that game development is not just code. It's so many different fields in one. It's like art, game design, it's like storytelling, how you write things, all these different things, right? Also, marketing is also a big thing, and the game idea. I think those two are like very big things. That's also essential for you to succeed in game development if you want to do it commercially, or you just want to at least get people to play your game. And especially the idea, I think it's more and more important. So what you need to realize is that learning how to code is not just enough. Everyone can code these days, everyone, right? As I told you, you can spend 2 weeks learning how to code, and then you can use AI very effectively. The thing that's going to separate you from all these others, in my opinion now, when it comes to the AI evolution, code being very easy, accessible, I think your game idea is going to be what makes you stand out. Because you can imagine this. Let's say I have 2 ideas. One has a very huge culture fit, and it's also like a really funny idea, and the code is not that advanced also. I can even give you an example for a game like this, like Capybara Simulator. It's literally a game where you do nothing, and it's called Capybara Simulator. The code there is like very simple. It's probably like a few scripts only. You probably don't even need to know how to code. You can probably just make this game with AI. It's like super simple. But this game still has like thousands of wish lists. I see it on social media all the time, people like memeing about the game. And I'm sure this game is going to make so much more money than like a FPS like teleporting portal game, right? Just because it has culture fit and it's unique, it's weird. And I think just having unique ideas is going to be so important in the future. I also see this game that's going viral right now. It's called Karen Simulator, and that's also a game I see doing really well now, getting thousands of wishlists on Steam, probably making like a lot of money, just because the idea is not the best. It's not like the best idea. It's not the technically most correct idea. Oh, you need to have like a story here and lose condition. You need to have a win condition. You need to have a score system. It's not like the correct idea, but it's a unique one. And I think unique ideas are going to make you stand out. Your idea is basically going to be your foundation, like a foundation on your home. If your foundation is weak, the house can just collapse unless you're very careful. If your foundation is good, the house doesn't need to be that strong. In my in my knowledge of how you make homes, it doesn't need to be that strong to actually like have a solid house, because you have like a solid foundation. And the last thing I'll say is that the hate towards AI is not justified. I see a lot of people, they say like, oh, AI bad, AI, you just make slop, AI is horrible, it's like bad for game development. I see a lot of people say that. And I don't think it's necessarily bad. The thing is that AI makes code so easy, it makes code so cheap. And there's a lot of people like you were before watching this video that just uses AI, ChatGPT to make like horrible bad projects that you can't even call a game. And that's where the hate comes from. It floods each other with like slop and bad projects. Oh, horror game, horror game, horror game, right? And that makes the game that actually has some soul, has this unique idea that we talked about, it just buries them a bit. But also, if you execute correctly on the marketing, your idea is like very unique and fun, you can also stand out much more, because now all these games, they have no soul, but your game is going to be unique, and that's going to make you stand out. It's going to like shoot you up like a rocket, in my opinion. So that's what I had for this video. My action step for you is going to be learn how to code. Just do what we talked about, where you struggle on purpose, and then you just make games that have a unique idea so that you can stand out. Also, if you're interested in game development and you are a beginner, I also have a free game development community. It's the first link below, where you also get a free course included on how you learn how to code without being AI dependent. It uses the exact same principles that we talked about in this video, where you both struggle and you get feedback and you're not reliant on AI. It's 100% free. I'm not asking you to pay anything, so just click the first link below and I'll see you inside.